Good evening, UFO enthusiasts. I'm Alexa, resident Ookie Spooky Girly, and today we're here once again to chat about all things UFO. Look, if I've said it once, I've said it a million times. Military folks tend to be the most credible UFO witnesses in history, and today you'll see why. So, question for y'all: what UFO sighting do you believe the most? Let me know in the comments, and welcome to the top 5 UFO encounters with military members they refuse to talk about. Number 5, the Chicago O'Hare Airport sightings. So at around 4:15 p.m. on November 7th of 2006, federal authorities at Chicago O'Hare International Airport received a report that a group of 12 airport employees were witnessing a metallic saucer-shaped craft hovering over Gate C-17. The object was first spotted by a ramp employee who was pushing back United Airlines Flight 446, which was departing Chicago for Charlotte, North Carolina. Now, the employee made the flight crew aware of the mysterious object above their aircraft, and this unknown craft was also witnessed by the pilots, airline management, and mechanics. So none of the air traffic controllers saw the object, and it didn't show up on radar. But witnesses described it as completely silent, 6 to 24 feet in diameter, in dark gray in color, so kind of like my vehicle. Several independent witnesses outside of the airport also saw the object. One described a disc-shaped craft hovering over the airport, stating that it was obviously not clouds, since the object flew through the clouds at high velocity, leaving a clear blue hole in the cloud layer, which closed itself shortly after the events. According to the Chicago Tribune's John Hilkovich, the disc was visible for approximately 5 minutes and was seen by close to a dozen United Airlines employees, ranging from pilots to supervisors, who heard chatter on the radio and raced out to view it. Both United Airlines and the Federal Aviation Administration, FAA for short, initially denied that they had any information on the O'Hare UFO sighting until the Chicago Tribune newspaper filed a Freedom of Information Act request. The FAA then ordered an internal review of air traffic communications tapes to comply with the Chicago Tribune request, which subsequently uncovered a call by the United supervisor to an FAA manager in the airport tower concerning the UFO sighting. Now, if I haven't made myself obvious by now, I hate cover-ups, so I'm glad the Freedom of Information request was rightfully granted. UFO investigators have argued that the FAA's refusal to look into the incident contradicts the agency's mandate to investigate possible security breaches at American airports, such as in this case. The National Aviation Reporting Center on Anomalous Phenomena published a 155-page report on the sighting and has called for a government inquiry in improved energy sensing technologies. Because if an airborne object can hover for several minutes over a busy airport but not be registered on radar or seen visually from the control tower, it creates a potential threat to human safety. Number 4, the Go Fast video. So this video, uploaded by the UFO investigative group to the STARS Academy of Arts and Sciences in March of 2018, was secured by a, you guessed it, Freedom of Information Act request to the US government. The video was taken in 2015 off of the East Coast by an FA-18F fighter jet using the aircraft's onboard Raytheon AN/ASQ-288 Advanced Targeting Forward-Looking Infrared Pod, also known as ATF-LIR. That was a lot of words, and I know myself too well. I'll trip over my tongue if I try saying that a lot, so it shall be called ATF for short if I have to talk about it again. Well, there we are. ATF is designed to allow pilots to track, target, and destroy targets on the ground at ranges of up to 40 miles. It should be noted that ATF is good at spotting, but not exactly engaging aerial targets. Now, the video, nicknamed Go Fast by To the Stars, starts by explaining the various numbers and symbols that appear in the footage. Things like the aircraft's altitude, which was around 25,000 feet, and the fact that the ATF was pointed ahead and to the left of the Super Hornet. Now, the readout also explains that the aircraft was traveling at 252 knots, and in a 5-degree turn, and the unknown object was approximately 4.4 nautical miles away. Now, the video shows the Super Hornet's weapon system operator repeatedly trying to acquire the UFO with the ATF's built-in auto tracker, which can pick out an object and keep it centered on camera. After 2 tries, the weapon system officer, or WSO, shouts, "Whoa, got it!" To which another person assumed to be the pilot says, "Woohoo, whoa, what the bleep is that thing?" the pilot asks. The WSO later says, "Oh my gosh, dude," to which the pilot replies, "Whoa, what is that, man?" Now, this is where the skeptics start asking, okay, but Alexa, how is this unknown object different from weird government aircrafts we don't know about? Well, doubters, let me count thy ways, because apparently I'm an expert at this point. For starters, the UFO doesn't have any kind of hot exhaust trail that would be emitted by a conventional turbine engine, appearing to emit no heat on the ATF sensor, and secondly, the UFO doesn't have any visible wings or fins. Through my research, I've learned that even cruise missiles such as the American Tomahawk or Russian Caliber have small winglets that should be visible, and other missiles such as the Maverick anti-tank missile have little stubby fins. This UFO is oval-like and does not appear to fly nose first in the direction of travel, so the science doesn't make sense to me. But hey, if you're an expert, let me know. Correct me. go nuts. Number 3, the 2004 series of Spottings. So on November 14th of 2004, Lieutenant Alex Dietrich was piloting her FA-18 Super Hornet when she observed an oblong object hovering over the water. It leapt into motion, skimming 500 to 1,000 feet over the waves at around 500 knots. Now the fighter jet's onboard radar couldn't detect the object, but Alex's weapons system operator in the rear seat witnessed it as well. Alex has quoted her recollection as, "We were trying to call out what we were seeing to each other and to make sure everybody else is seeing it. It's moving so erratically and so fast that our voices, our minds, and then even our radio calls can't keep up with it." So here's the thing. The majority of credible modern-day UFO sightings can be credited to those that work in the Air Force. And if I haven't mentioned it already, it should be noted that military pilots are trained to see all the aircrafts by their shapes, paint schemes, unit insignia. They're trained to recognize this stuff and know it off the top of their head. On one of the other Super Hornets that launched behind Alex was Lieutenant Commander Chad Underwood, who was able to capture the object on an infrared camera. It's around 40 feet long, round and smooth, and quickly received the nickname Tic Tac. Now all of the footage that the US government has confirmed as authentic and unexplained speak for itself, since I know we have the clip handy. And around this time, starting on November 10th to be exact, Gary Voorhees, a petty officer on the USS Princeton guided missile cruiser, had been reporting apparitions on his radar screens in the same area. Triple checking his equipment before he made his report, and being the main technician responsible for the equipment, along with having 6 years of Navy experience at the time, he described what he was seeing as impossible. In just seconds, an object had dropped to the waterline from 60,000 feet, hovered, and then zipped away at high velocity, making right-angle turns that were quoted as being confounding and defying gravity, not alphaba. The objects returned for the next week, with Voorhees quoted as saying, "I was able to see it on the horizon during the night and during the day. It was definitely a glowing object. Could I tell you for 100% certainty what it was we were tracking?" Now, footage of this event used to exist, with Gary being able to vividly describe his memories, but has since been scrubbed from the internet. I'm not surprised, you shouldn't be either. Things tend to just go poof when they're a little too true. Number 2, the Washington Flap. At 11:40 p.m. on Saturday, July 19th of 1952, Edward Nugent, an air traffic controller at the Ronald Reagan Washington National Airport, try saying that 5 times fast, spotted 7 objects on his radar. The objects were around 24 kilometers south-southwest of the city, not following any established flight paths, and no known aircrafts were in the area. Now his superior, Harry Barnes, a senior air traffic controller at said airport, watched the objects on the radar scope, later writing that they knew immediately that a very strange situation existed. What do you know? The movements were completely radical compared to those of an ordinary aircraft. Harry had 2 controllers check Edward's radar, and they found it was working normally. He then called National Airport's radar-equipped control tower, and the controllers there said that they had unidentified blips on their radar screen and saw a hovering bright light in the sky that was moving at speeds they couldn't understand. Now at this point, other objects appeared in all sectors of the radar scope, and when they moved over the White House and the United States Capitol, Harry then called the Andrews Air Force Base, which was located around 10 miles away. Although they reported they had no unusual objects on their radar, an airman soon called the base's control tower to report the sighting of a strange object. Airman William Brady, who was in the tower, saw an object which appeared to be like an orange ball of fire, trailing a tail, saying it was unlike anything he had ever seen before. Where have I heard that phrase today? Now as he tried to alert the other personnel in the tower, the strange object took off at an unbelievable speed. On one of National Airport's runways, pilot S.C. Pierman was waiting in the cockpit of his plane for permission to take off, and after spotting what he believed to be a meteor, he was told that the control tower's radar had detected unknown objects closing in on his position. Now he observed 6 objects that he described as white, tailless, fast-moving lights over a 14-minute period. He was in radio contact with Harry during his sighting, and Harry later reported that each sighting coincided with a pip that could be seen near his plane. When he reported the lights streaked off at a high speed and disappeared on their scope. Meanwhile, back at the Andrews Air Force Base, Staff Sergeant Charles Davenport observed an orange-red light to the south where the light would appear to stand still, then make an abrupt change in direction and altitude, with the phenomena happening over several times. Now at one point, both radar centers at National Airport and the radar at Andrews Air Force Base were tracking an object hovering over a radio beacon. The object vanished in all 3 radar centers at the same time. At 3 a.m., shortly before 2 United States Air Force F-94 Starfire jet fighters from the Newcastle Air Force Base in Delaware arrived over Washington, all of the objects vanished from the radar at National Airport. However, when the jets ran low on fuel and left, the objects returned, which convinced Harry that the UFOs were monitoring radio traffic and behaving accordingly. The objects were last detected by radar at 5:30 a.m., and the government later tried dismissing the events of that day on a temperature blip, but those who were present have been adamant otherwise, and I'm gonna believe them. Number 1, the Aguadilla UAP. Jonathan Lace, spokesman for the Scientific Coalition for UAP Studies, SCU for short, explained the organization believes the most compelling footage of anomalous activity ever was taken by a Homeland Security aircraft over Puerto Rico on April 25th of 2013. I'll let you folks make up your own minds in the comments, by the way. The video was captured at around 9:20 p.m. on that fateful day as an unknown object flew across the runway of the Rafael Hernandez Airport in Aguadilla and was caught on infrared camera by a U.S. Customs and Border Protection aircraft, the footage of which was leaked to SCU by an anonymous source. The eerie footage shows an object believed to be up to 5 feet in length, moving at speeds of up to 120 miles per hour, getting close to the ground before seemingly plunging into the ocean and splitting into two. In a 50-page report, the SCU has made notes that no bird, no balloon, no aircraft, and no known drones have that capability. It also appears to not disturb the water when plunging beneath and then re-emerging from the surface, a phenomenon known as transmedium travel. SCU investigators said the object appears to be of unknown origin after spending 1,000 hours researching it. It is claimed the pilots of a DHC-8 turboprop spotted a red light over the ocean. They then contacted the control tower, who told them they did not know the identity of the object, and then the object's lights went out as it approached the shore. The plane then emerged from its thermal imaging camera. The plane then engaged its thermal imaging camera and went on to follow the UAP. The SCU report concluded by saying that the video is the best documentation of an unknown aerial and submerged nautical object exhibiting advanced technology ever seen. They have since called for the release of more data from the Pentagon, after the release of a lot of footage recently. And in their statement, the SCU said that they believe all government data regarding unidentified aerospace objects should be made available to the public to be openly investigated by the broader scientific community, provided that such data does not compromise sources or methods of collection. A full scientific investigation of such, information would be able to uncover valuable information relating to both national security and advancement of our understanding of physics, aerospace engineering, and our world. Here's to hoping the Pentagon listens someday and releases that footage. If I've said it once, I've said it a million times, but they really need to stop being so cagey about what they release. They really don't release information unless they're forced to. And while I hate sounding like a broken record, they need to do better. And that brings us to the end of our time, and if you see me wandering around later today staring deep at the sky, no you don't. If you enjoyed my ramblings today, could you help us out by giving this video a like, subscribing if you weren't already, hit the bell for more out of this world content from us here at Top 5 Scary Videos, and I'll see y'all next time, you lovely spooky people.